Maylis Besserie is a producer and host at France Culture, the state-funded radio station. She has produced and hosted numerous programs over the past 17 years, including the Factory of History, Public Works, Surprised by the Night, and various summer series. Her first novel, The Third Time, was published by Gallimard in February 2020 and has just won the Goncourt Prize for first novel. Maylis was born in Bordeaux and lives in Paris. From 2005 to 2010, she taught radio documentary production at the Institut des Médias de Paris. We're in Paris to talk about her first novel. Congratulations and
thank you very much.
Welcome to the Bibliophile again.
It's lovely to be here.
Okay. So, passion usually has a role to play in writing. What were you passionate about when you decided to write this book? What was the inspiration? What happened to make you want to write this novel?
I think it was a kind of accident in a way, because I wanted to write lyrics and I wanted to adapt novels for the radio. And I always wrote for my work as a journalist, as a broadcaster too. And I started a novel when I was 25 and stopped after 50 pages. So there was always writing in my life as an everyday thing. I was running a daily program at the French National Radio, and after a year I decided to stop. I went to a creative class, mostly to change my writing and to work in several directions, because I wanted to do creative things like lyrics and adaptations for radio and all that. And so I just wanted to go to this creative class and to see what happens. It was only a 2-month thing. And so I did, and it was at Gallimard, at the publishing house. They organize creative class, which are quite separated from the publishing house, run by publishers most of the time, or writers. There was this important publisher called Jean-Marie Laclaftine at Gallimard, who ran the class. And I thought I would leave after the second class because everybody around the table was here to write a first novel, and I wasn't there for that. But I keep on going because I find it very interesting, and the exercises, the way I had to use the writing in different ways. And
yeah, it was really quiet before we turned the microphones on.
All the trucks come for the interview.
That's right, they heard the introduction.
And so I kept on going, and I find it really interesting, but I have no plan for a novel.
Right.
But for the very last day of class, there was an exercise asked by the publisher, which was write the very first page and the very last page of your novel.
Okay.
And I thought, oh my God, what I'm going to do, because I didn't have any novel. I had this idea because Ireland is always in my heart. It's a kind of second home for me, and I go there since since I was a teenager, and I had this very strong relation with Irish literature, and I thought about a subject which came out when I was making a documentary about James Joyce. It's the relations he had with Beckett when he was living in Paris, in an area called Odéon, l'Odéonie in Paris. And the young Beckett met James Joyce, who was the master we know at the time, and he was very impressed. I thought about that, and I thought maybe I could imagine something about the young Beckett discovering Paris and working for Joyce.
Fictionalizing
and I thought, oh, it has to be Beckett who's telling the story, because Beckett is the one who spoke in French, who wrote in French.
Yeah.
So it would be nice if it would be the old Beckett telling it, because he would remember everything, all his life in France, but also Ireland. He could have memories of everything. So Beckett kind of ate Joyce on the project. He kind of became the main character. It wasn't planned like that,
okay.
So I just wrote just a piece for creative class, and it was the very end of the book, which changed after that. But the idea was there, and so my idea was Beckett talking. So as a first person, the old Beckett remembering, and I just had this scene imagining him from his bed, talking to himself as a kind of monologue.
Mm-hmm. Kind of limited and restricted, like a lot of his characters are.
Yeah, and I also liked the oldness and the way of the memory can have some, you can have some problem with memory and all that, and I liked this as a kind of dreamy state he could have from his bed, like we all have, getting a bit lost between reality
and the
dream world and the memory, and everything is a big mixing, but it's a kind of poetic in a way to have this confused, but it's also a bit of a nightmare too, because he can't really be sure of what he thinks. So I just wrote a piece of that, and this day, for the very last day of class, the publisher asked me to read
what you'd written.
In
front of the class.
Yeah. So I did.
And there was a standing ovation.
No. We just discussed what happened, but at the end of the class he asked me to have a meeting with him and another publisher and encouraged me to write the book. So I just did.
So again, the idea had always been percolating with you about Joyce and Beckett meeting each other. You'd always thought that was fascinating and that you'd like to turn it into a story?
I just had this feeling of Beckett. I was fascinated by the fact that he was between two languages, and the fact that he wrote in a language which wasn't his own, and always thought that he was still thinking partly in English and had a kind of journey all the time between French and English, and I've always been fascinated by that. And Joyce is in the book, is an important character of the first part of the book. And there's 3 parts in the book: first time, second time, and third time. But I like this kind of journey between the two languages, and it was a way for me to give back to Beckett his Irishness, because in France we all forget that Beckett was Irish, actually. He wrote in French.
Yeah.
We had a kind of strong appropriation to Beckett because everybody loves his plays.
Yeah.
And
they were
prose.
written in French first.
They were written in French. Murphy was written in English first, but that's right. But because I knew Ireland from a personal experience, and I had very strong friendship there, I wanted to give back that.
You went there for summers, for holidays, or what?
Yes, I went there and I met friends when I was a teenager to learn English. And
so you studied English there?
Oh, just for summer.
You had love affairs there?
No, not. It wasn't about love affairs. I was 12 and I was in a family home, and we had very strong friendships starting there, and we've always been in contact since. They're like my second family there. Okay. And so I met a lot of friends there, and I go there and they go to France, and so I had a very emotional attached to Ireland, and also I was very interested in Irish literature.
I'm still not quite sure why you decided to write a novel about it, though. What motivated you? What inspired you?
It just happened. I don't think I really decided. I decided to go to a creative class, so I guess there was something.
And you were prompted at the class.
And it just came up.
Yeah.
It just came up as a subject, and the subject slowly changed because I made some change, and I found this voice, which I imagine being the inside voice of Beckett talking to himself as an old man, which is not the voice of Beckett writing, which is another voice that I could create that would make me free to write whatever I wanted without trying to write like Beckett. So it was a way to find my freedom inside the story. Yeah. But I liked the fact that he was talking as a first person too, because we are kind of stuck into his mind. It's a mind of a writer, no matter if he doesn't really write anymore. The way he sees the nursing home, people around him. Everybody is a kind of character.
The way he observes the world is as if he's going to turn it into literature.
He's telling himself stories, watching out the windows and imagining what's happening, and the voices of people around, people who stays in the home are kind of, it's like voices coming to his ears, but the reader always see the world through Beckett's mind, so we will always stay there. It's like as the nursing room became a kind of stage, for a play, and a very tight place. And in that place, there's the bedroom. He stays in the bedroom. He doesn't want to take part in activities or all that.
He's an observer.
He's a watcher.
Yeah.
That's what writers are,
yeah.
watchers, telling stories. And he keeps telling stories to himself in his mind, even if he's not writing anymore.
So you knew his biography pretty well before you started writing the novel then?
I knew pretty well his prose and his plays too. But I read back, of course, I made some research. But the most important for me was to find a music which would be the way he was talking had to be close to what we know. I mean, we had to recognize him in a way, in the way he was talking to himself, but I didn't want to imitate his style, so I had to find a kind of cousinhood or something like that.
Sure, yeah. But there must be recordings of his voice that you listened to?
Very few.
Yeah.
Very few. He didn't answer to much interviews.
There's now a convoy of trucks coming by. The word is out. They must have, on the radio, they must have radioed each other that our interview was taking place. Okay. Okay, so you wanted to capture music, but that was Irish and French between the languages?
For me it was very fun because I wanted to, of course, to write a book in French, but I didn't want to write. French languages can be very dry in a way.
There are fewer words, quite a few fewer words.
Yes, that's the way it works at the moment in literature. And I didn't want to write like that. And I didn't want to write in the old way, which would be the wonderful French of 19th century, because it wouldn't suit the book. Yeah. So I wanted to try to do something else and to have this journey myself between English, thinking, oh, maybe he's thinking about this expression in English, skinny as a rail. So if I use the image of the rail in French, it would be, maigre comme un chemin de fer. It would change my language. So I could contaminate, in a way, French by English, and it would help me creating something else. So I kind of played between the language, and especially the English. They speak in Ireland, which is slightly different sometimes. And it was a lot of fun for me to think of the signification of one word in French and in English. And sometimes there's some accident because some words exist in the two languages but don't mean the same, and sometimes can be really rude in French or in English. And he's having fun with that kind of accident of the language.
Who is he addressing then?
The book?
It's first person, so who would you say he's addressing?
He's talking to himself. He's talking to himself. It's something that we're not supposed to hear.
Okay, so he's honest.
Yeah. That's an inside word. So he doesn't have to control the language, doesn't have to control what he says.
And what did you want to say with this novel?
Well, the thing was to speak about oldness and to try to experience how deeply you stay the same person, but how things change all around, and this kind of perceptions of yourself and the world around you. And especially when you're losing slowly your memory, when you're not exactly the same, but you feel exactly the same person inside. And I wanted to keep the writer Beckett. He was a kind of, tête brûlée in French. He liked to run fast. He liked excess. He liked to drink. He was very brave as a kid. He was
used to dive off high trees, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's so memorable in one of the biographies I read.
Yeah, in James Knowlson's biography, Knowlson insists on that, and his mother was completely scared because he was a bit out of control as a kid and putting himself in dangerous situations. And I wanted to keep that. And even then, with the physio at the nursing home, we try to help me exercises, and he has problem to walk, but he keeps taking risk, and he's going to fall because he likes to try to run and to put himself in danger. He likes the thrill of it, and I wanted to keep that very alive thing. And even if the body is not able to do whatever he wants, he's still the same person inside, and the mind is very vivid, even if the body is a bit slower. And I liked this contrast of the personality. It was very interesting for me to work on that.
Well, yeah, the self being confined is such an important part of his work, toward the end anyway.
Yeah.
Struggling with that.
And laughing about that.
Yeah. At the absurdity of it, I suppose.
In a nursing home, everything is absurd. There's no reality. Everything is fiction. I mean, the name of the meals, the rules. There was a kind of... I find it very funny, and I thought that he would find it quite funny because, the signs on the wall, the security rules you have to... Everything, the language they use. And the professionals, has to use some language. And I thought it would be a kind of something he could use to tell himself stories. I mean, I'm not supposed to do this and I'm not supposed to do that. And, the way I should call my nurse to go to my bath and how I will wash myself. And there's the body, there's the very little things of everyday, ordinary things, and there's kind of metaphysic thoughts about that too. And I like this huge gap in his work, in his writing, in Beckett's writing, that he can talk about very small things and it became very metaphysical, and everything is in everything.
And that's what you did in your novel.
Oh, I don't think I did the same, and I just wanted to have a writer I love and admire with me to start writing, and it was a kind of tribute, and it was very funny for me. It wasn't something like I'm going to compare myself to. It wasn't anything like that. It was something like having the shadow of this wonderful ghost in my head, and it helped me to try to create another word. Another kind of story.
Mm-hmm. Do you worry that you're distorting the reality?
I hope I do.
But what I mean, though, is that people might get upset that this didn't happen, and they're uncomfortable with it.
It's not at all a biography.
I know it's fiction. I do know that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that some people get concerned about fictionalizing real people's lives.
Well, at the very beginning of the book, Beckett's become a character. He became one of his own character, I would say, in a way. An old man who's having trouble to walk, and he became something else. He became Sam. The character is called Sam.
Yeah.
And I felt very free to do whatever I wanted because he became a character.
Did you work with this editor at Gallimard on an ongoing basis then, after he said, please submit something to me?
Well, I gave him the book when it was almost halfway, and just to have a first reading and to tell him, that's what I'm doing. And he liked the first half, so I kept on going. And there's a committee in Gallimard, so he can't choose himself, There must be 2 readers.
Okay.
And there's a choice during the committee, so it's a whole process. So I knew that it wasn't because he encouraged me to do the book that it would be published at the end.
It wasn't a guarantee.
Oh, absolutely not. And he told me that all the way. And but happily, it had been accepted. So
well, it helps to have an insider, of course.
Yeah, but of course.
It's interesting that Gallimard used to. Now, is it NFR?
Yeah.
They famously have this important literary magazine.
NRF.
And it's a way of attracting interesting, good, new, young writers. It seems to me that the seminar that they're putting on is serving the same purpose for them. In a way, it's they can have a look at some interesting new writers if they're the ones that are hosting the seminar, right? And that's a way for them to make money too, I guess.
Yeah, but that's also separated activities. I mean, a lot of people are doing the creative class just to learn. Not everybody is going to write after that.
It is the wish of all the students to have what happened to you, though, to happen, really.
Especially it's called night classes. It's only 8 sessions in 2 months, so it's not like in university or when it would be a long process.
Okay, so let's have a look then just finally about the character himself. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but so what internal journey does Sam go on?
Well, when he's just arrived at the Tiers Temps, which is the name of the nursing home.
Yeah, which you checked out, right?
I checked out, I went there, and it was so funny that the name of the nursing home, the Tiers Temps, would be, in English it's different, it's difficult to translate because temps would be time, but it could be a while also. And so it's always written in his place, as instructions, un temps, so it's like you have to wait for a while and then the next scene. And so it was like in his place, the third time, and I thought it would suit him very well. So when you arrived there, he fell when he was at home, and he had to go there because he wasn't really able to walk on his own for a while. And he was shaking, probably a Parkinson's disease. We're not sure about that, but there was a suspicion about that. At the very beginning of the book, his wife Suzanne died.
Okay.
And it was a big shock for him. And he wakes up one morning and he's there at the nursing home. And like we all are sometimes, he's a bit sleepy. He's not quite sure where he is. That's the very beginning. And he has to remember she's not there anymore, which is a way to think about everybody who died before him. And he's traveling, looking out the window, seeing trees, and he's traveling to Ireland in his mind, and he's thinking, oh, I can't be in Dublin. If I was in Dublin, there would be this and that, there would be birds, and there would be... So he's thinking about what's around him.
But trying to place himself where he is?
Yeah, in a way, but that's also like a dream which keeps on going. Oh, I couldn't be in Dublin. If I was in Dublin, I would hear the birds, and I would hear this and that, and she's not there, so she's dead. And his memory is kind of, it's like fragments. Okay. And then he puts himself together, and there is kind of the association, one word leads to another word. But that's also a kind of play he has with himself, because the different meanings of the words would bring a new subject, a word comes and there's another meaning of the word, so another subject arrives, So we kind of reading what happens to his mind, and we have this wonderful mind he had, so bright and so funny, and we have access to everything which is usually forbidden between dreams, nightmares, and what he thinks but would never say. Nurses and physio doctors talk to him, address, and he always answers in his mind for us, the reader. That's the process of the book. And we do have some information about him through medical papers, which I put in the book, which I invented too. They didn't exist. would be the nurse saying, "Oh, Mr. Beckett woke up this morning and ate that and went for a walk and everything." The reader has some information about why he's here and what happened before, or his size and the way he looked at the time. So we had the very cold medical view of this wonderful man. Nobel Prize was considered as a human being, but like an animal at the zoo. That's what happened in nursing home. And no matter how nice people are, that's a very cold way of seeing people. And we have access to what he thinks, which is completely different, which is his point of view, very dark and full of humor and thoughts about the words.
But how does he change? Does he change?
If he's taking a bath, the water would lead him to the cold sea, the cold Irish Sea. Everything can make him travel to Ireland in his mind and his memories. He sees a scarf and he remembers the way he was attacked by a knife as a young man. So his own body and what he sees around him brings memory of previous life.
So once you'd finished the manuscript, did you hand it to the guy that was the editor in the class?
Yeah.
So he took it for you, took it to
the committee. There was a second reader, another publisher who read the book.
Okay.
And she's called Maud Simoneau.
That's interesting. Maud is an Irish name.
Yeah.
Maud Simoneau.
Yeah, Maud was the muse of Yeats, Maud Gonne.
Yes.
Yeah, and so they brought it to the committee, and then that's the decision of Antoine Gallimard himself. He's deciding.
So is Antoine Claude's son?
Yeah.
Okay. And he's the president of the company, and he oversees everything?
He's running the committee, but he's working with the committee.
Yeah,
but he's making decisions.
And if there's a decision to make, he makes it.
Yeah, with the advice and the
interesting.
The point of view of the editors. But I'm not the specialist of the Gallimard committee.
No.
I've never been there.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you get the call from him?
No, from my publisher. My publisher told me. Jean-Marie Lacleftine, the publisher, told me.
Not Antoine.
No, that he has been accepted.
And then what happened?
Well, I made a few changes in the book. Not much, really not much, very few. And then the book was out in February, in 6th of February.
You didn't go to the printing press and watch it being printed?
Well, that's the normal process. Like you have the first proof, and then you make some change, a second proof, and you check it.
Galleys.
Yeah. So, but nothing special during that process. Yeah.
Okay. It was published in Gallimard's traditional kind of cream color.
Yeah.
In paperback.
Yeah. It's called the White Collection. Yeah.
The White Collection?
Yeah.
Even though it's cream?
Yeah.
Okay. And is that a collection of first novels?
That's the regular collection.
Regular.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know in the past they used to have a series of first novelists' novels, a special series.
Okay.
But it was like 80 years ago or something. Okay, so did you get a package of them and you tore open the package?
I went to sign the first copies for the press, for the journalists. So you discover your book printed, and there was a little jacket,
a little strip around it.
Yeah, with
red.
With the face of Beckett, a beautiful picture of Beckett as an old man, and it was wonderful to have him somewhere in the book. Yeah, for chance in a way, and as it was a tribute for him, so I was very happy to see him there. And so I just discovered the book, signed a few copies for journalists, and it's very moving to see it on paper. That's Gallimard's paper. It's a beautiful paper.
And how big was the first run? Do you know? How many copies?
There would
5,000.
I guess 4,000.
4,000. Okay.
Yeah. Then it has been reprinted after.
So you were saying that the book came out it was when?
On the 6th of February, so 5 weeks after there was a lockdown in France.
Okay, so it had started to sell, you were getting excited about that, and then
I had
bang.
a lot of reviews, actually. I was very lucky. And then after 5 weeks, the lockdown was decided. And I kept on having interviews on the phone or a bit, but nobody could buy the book.
Well, they could buy it online, couldn't they?
A bit, but there were a few copies left, so you could buy as a how do you call it, like Kindles or
electric, ebook.
Ebook, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
Okay, so the lockdown happens.
I thought the book was dead, but actually it wasn't the main subject because it was a kind of tragedy, and in France the situation was pretty hard, as you might know. So it wasn't the main subject. 30,000 people died in France from the COVID, so it was a very sad time. But it was a very sad time for books too, and for bookshops, and for creative people in general.
Yeah. Okay.
Everything was suspending for a long time, and nobody knew for how long. And still, a lot of events like all over the world are, cancelled. And
okay. So then what happened?
Then the Goncourt Academy, which is an important prize in France, decided to give the prize of the springtime of the first novel on the day the lockdown was over. That was the 11th of May. And so I knew I was on the shortlist. There were three writers on the shortlist for the Goncourt of the first novel. So to help the bookshops, they decided to give the prize on the day they reopened the shops.
So everyone went tearing out to get their copy then, person.
Well, I did in person, but I was very lucky to win that, because I was very happy that the book could find a way to survive.
I was going to say that Gallimard wouldn't have known that you were going to win. So where did they get all the extra copies? If it was announced on the 11th.
Yeah, printers were working again after the 11th of May, so it has been reprinted just after that. It was a kind of happy news, and everything reopened.
There was another wave then.
Yes, absolutely.
It was another wave of sales, another wave of interviews, I guess?
And there was this very particular thing, is that the book is a very confined book, as you said yourself. So a lot of journalists interviewed me about the fact that we were all in lockdown for so many weeks.
Of course, yeah.
And this book is made like this, The story is about being locked down in a nurse, and Beckett can't really socialize, and it's about that, the loneliness and all that. And so there was a kind of strange echo between the way the book was written, what it was about, nursing home, it was a tragedy in France too, and all over the world, what happened to old people in nursing home. So many people died, and my book was just taking place in a nursing home all the book long. So there was a kind of strange echo.
Synchronicity or something.
Yes, so I was interviewed a lot about that too.
And so obviously sales were up, interviews were up. What else happened after the prize? Anything else?
Yeah, just the week after, 10 or 11 foreign publishers decided to buy the rights to translate the book in several languages. So it's been very lucky, because the book is going to be translated in Portuguese, Brazil, in Albanese, in Arabic, in Chinese, Japanese, or in several languages. So,
and this is all something that Gallimard put together for you. They arranged it.
Yeah. That's what happens. They also are in contact with foreign publishers. I don't know all the process because
No.
they all do their jobs, and I'm not in the middle of the process. But that's what happened.
They're negotiating on your behalf, though, right?
Yeah. Of course, like publishers do.
Yeah. Well, they don't in North America. This is what agents do. That's what makes North America so different from France. Although there are agents, more and more literary agents in France.
Yeah, but it's still not the main.
No, it's not the main
thing.
No,
Usually you work with your publisher.
So you have no intention of getting a literary agent?
Well, I haven't thought about that at the moment.
Okay, so increased sales, coverage. What was the event like? What was the Goncourt Gala like? Or did they haven't? I guess they haven't had one.
It couldn't happen. So I wrote to the jury to thank them, and they wrote me back this beautiful email I had from Philippe Claudel, which ran the prize, and
he's the chairman of it, is he?
Well, of the first novel prize.
Oh yes,
and,
okay.
He wrote me a lovely email about the book, and the way he was waiting for the second book, the second novel. And so it was very nice. And at the end of June, we had a meal together. So the three laureates, there's a Goncourt for a biography.
Yes.
First novel and short stories.
Okay.
And so the three laureates who have been invited to...
What about the novel, just the novel itself?
It's not in springtime, it's during autumn. So the three laureates, we went to the Restaurant Drouot, which is the very known place for them, Goncourt Academy, l'Hôtel Drouan. It's the name of the restaurant.
Drouin?
A-N-T. So we had a lunch, a nice lunch, with the members of the jury and the laureates, in a very small committee because it wasn't allowed to be with journalists and everybody because it was too many people for the COVID situation.
Okay.
But we had a lunch together, and it was wonderful to meet them.
Okay. Anything else about the process that you want to add that's happened to you as a result of all of this? You happy about it? You sad?
I'm very happy and grateful. And the funny thing is the addiction that arrived very quickly. Like I starting to write, and first it was difficult for me to write more than a couple of hours every day because I was completely racked, tired after that. It took me all my energy to write, and after a while I get more and more involved in the process, and I was writing all day and getting completely crazy, and at the end of the book I couldn't stop because the book wasn't finished, so I was writing every day, including weekends and all the time, and I couldn't finish because I was tired, but I couldn't stop until it was finished, so it was a kind of circle. And some friends went over for a few days, some Irish friends from New York, they live in New York, and I had to stop a bit because I was hosting people. And when they were there, I just, after a few days, I went, I started to work again on the book. And when I read the last lines of the manuscript, I thought I had just to finish the end, But then when I read it, actually it was finished.
Oh, that's
But
good.
I didn't notice when I was doing it. But I had to take a few steps back for a few days to understand that the book was already finished, and I couldn't finish it because it was already done. So.
What about the binding? Do they do a beautiful binding for the winner of the Goncourt? Do they do anything? Do they do that with the Booker? They actually give you a fantastic, beautiful, bound copy of the book.
Yeah.
Do they give you a little statue or something, or?
No. We just had the prize.
You just had the meal. That was it, and the money, I guess.
The meal was wonderful, and there's.
Is there money, or is it just
there's a bit of money too.
How much money?
I don't know if I'm supposed to say that.
Oh, I don't know. I don't. If you aren't, then let's not say it.
That's But
If it's not public, then
I don't know.
Oh,
Actually,
okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't know before. But
But
the
it's
main
not-
thing is to meet those writers too.
The judges? you mean?
Who have read so well your work, and to talk with them about what they've liked and what they didn't like, and what you think about doing next, and what moved them, what has to be improved or not. It's very interesting to have this kind of conversation with very experienced writers too. They are with all different kind of writers too.
Yeah.
I enjoyed meeting them.
I know publishers, they'll look at someone like you and they'll figure, okay, so how many books is she good for? That's how they're looking at you. Is she good for 10 more books, or a book a year, or a book every 10 years? Or so how many books are you good for?
I don't know. I'm writing the second book at the moment. I'm writing the second novel, so I don't know how many I'm going to write, but I'm pretty addicted, as I told you.
Addicted to the actual writing, or the idea of finishing it and doing this again?
Both, I'd say. It became a kind of second life.
You're living in another world, right?
I don't know, but maybe it's I'm living in the world and in the world of writing.
Well, plus you've got kids.
Yeah, that's true. Like a lot of people do.
No, of course. I'm just saying that would bring you back to this world pretty quickly.
But I find it wonderful to have this possibility to spend your time imagining and trying to make it right, and to stick to a project, and to finish it until the end, until you're completely tired, until you're completely involved in it.
Yeah, it must be wonderful, exhilarating.
It is.
When you were talking, I just was reminded of a quote, and I think it's Disraeli. I think it's Benjamin Disraeli that said that you have to believe in magic if you're going to believe in reality. So just throw it out there for what it's worth.
Well, all the artists has to believe in magic. I mean, it's a magical process in a way.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing the magic.
Thank you very much.
With me. It's good to hear how it's done in France. I've been speaking with Maylis Besserie, who is a producer and host at France Culture in Paris. Thanks again.
Thanks.